What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Today we're going over my favorite late round tight end sleepers, a highly requested video because a very, strong strategy in fantasy over the years has been double dipping on late round tight ends, especially if either you just miss out, maybe you like some of the early mid round tight ends, but other people snipe them from you, or you just don't like the value. You say, hey, I like Mark Andrews, I like Dalton Kincaid, but I like the other players there as well, or you just don't end up with them on your team. Double dipping late, taking two late round tight ends has proven to be a viable strategy. It is much more successful than taking one late. So today we'll go over 5 I would heavily consider in the final rounds. I want to start though by just kind of talking about what we're looking for in a late round tight end. For a tight end to break out, especially the later on ones, you need one of two things to happen. Either they are a mismatch for defenses, and so even if they're on a bad team and maybe don't get lucky with touchdowns, they can be featured in the offense in a way where they're just part of the game plan every week. They can rack up, 5 or 6 receptions, and they can kind of get there that way. The other end is maybe you're just on a really good team. You have a spike season for touchdowns. So even if you're not like some, featured part of the offense, you're not an amazingly athletic wide receiver, you just get lucky with touchdowns. But that is basically it. One of those two things needs to happen. Ideally, both. Ideally, you are highly athletic and you're on a really good team, but you're going to need one of those two things to happen. Last season, Laporta, Njoku, Ingram, Kmet, Ferguson, to some degree had a breakout. Like, obviously, there are varying degrees there. But you look at that list, Ferguson is the only tight end on the list that's not highly athletic, but he was on the #1 scoring offense in football, so that's what made up for it. In 2022, it was really only Hawkinson that broke out. He's a highly athletic tight end. He was on a top 8 offense. 2021, it was Schultz, Knox, Hunter Henry. Schultz is unathletic, but he was on the #1 scoring offense. Knox, above average athleticism, #3 scoring offense. And believe it or not, the Patriots were actually 7th in scoring in 2021. And that was just a spiked season for Hunter Henry, who is also athletic in his own way. Not the way we typically like, but he does have athleticism. But it was really just a spike touchdowns. He had 9 touchdowns that year. Now I could keep going, but the trend continues. Elite athlete or spike touchdown ceiling because you were on an offense that scored a lot of touchdowns. Need one of those two to happen. So I've concocted a list of 5 that I think kind of fit this, and none of these picks are going earlier than 175. So the earliest, the first tight end, Conklin, is 175. Everyone else is going later. So it's not like we're sitting here being like, ooh, I think that like Brock Bowers can break out. Of course, but he's also going in the middle rounds of drafts. These are guys where you can double dip, and pretty much always you can pull up this list in the final 2 rounds of your draft, and maybe not all of them are there, but I guarantee you 2 of them will be, no matter what your scoring format is, no matter how deep your league is, no matter how many teams there are. So sit back, hit the like button, and let's start things off with, like I said, Tyler Conklin. Now, to be honest, Conklin is the worst athlete on this list, but he does have an 89th percentile burst score. And while he is a little bit slower, his athleticism is still strong. Again, worst athlete on the list. The main thing that you're really crossing your fingers for with Conklin is the offense, right? And I fully agree with the crowd that is somewhat concerned with Aaron Rodgers. Like, I'm not going to lie and say that his health, his age doesn't concern me, because it obviously does. But let's understand what we're doing here, right? We are double dipping on late round tight ends in the very late rounds of the draft, hoping that one of the 2 we pick is going to hit their 90th percentile ceiling. We need things to go right. For anyone you draft this late, at all positions really, but especially tight end, you need things to go their way. So yeah, you're going to need Aaron Rodgers to stay healthy. Obviously, Conklin is not going to have a breakout season if Aaron Rodgers suffers another injury or is bad, of course. But also, if Aaron Rodgers was 30 years old and fully healthy, Conklin would be going at what? The 10th or 11th round. So you're getting him at 175 because people are scared of Aaron Rodgers. Now, Conklin has exactly 87 targets in 3 consecutive seasons, and while the efficiency hasn't been great, what are you really going to expect playing 2 seasons on the Jets? Look at the backups. He's only got Jeremy Ruckert and Kenny Yeboah. I don't really know how to say it, for being honest. Latest reports are that it's going to be somewhat of a rotation between these 3, but that Conklin's going to be the one they feature more in like that passing game role, whereas the other 2 are going to mix in a little bit, but especially Ruckert, going to be out there a lot more for blocking. In my opinion, Conklin is set up to have around a 75% snap share each week, to run a significant, like a highly percentage of those snaps will be passing snaps. He's probably not going to go out there for all of the snaps and be a pure run blocker. Like when it's a clear run play, he's probably just not going to go out there. And that's really all we care about for fantasy. I don't care at all if you're a great run blocker, unless you're someone like George Kittle or like, back in the day with Gronk, where it was like you're on the field every play, and that obviously benefits when we want to go play action. So it hurts a little bit, but I want Conklin out there for the passing snaps. I'm not overly worried that he's not out there on the clear run plays. So you're going to need Rodgers to look like he did a few years ago, which is certainly not a guarantee. But again, if it were a guarantee, he'd be going around, the 10th or 11th round, not round 15. So I like him as a pick. I think he's probably like the safest option on this list, but if you can't find yourself investing in the Jets offense, I got 4 more, and I think the next 2 especially, I don't know, in my opinion, are very clear options for breakouts and are not going early in drafts. So if you don't like the Jets, how about you draft someone on Miami, right? I mean, Jonnu Smith signed with the Dolphins this summer, and Mike McDaniel said that he's become a monster of yak, and that is music to our ears, that he understands that Jonnu Smith has limitations. Jonnu Smith is a highly athletic tight end, fantastic on screen passes, and when you can get him the ball moving, across the field or downfield, but most likely across the field, right? He's not someone that's just going to line up and run a go. He's someone that you'll want to have in like a drag route, a slant route, just get him going horizontally, then he can bust it upfield, right? Design plays like that. And I think they're going to perfectly match this offense and his role to his skill set. He is not going to run crisp routes. He is not going to command any sort of target share on his own. So if they don't design plays to him, his target share will be 0. Like he's just not going to get open on his own. But I don't believe that's what they want. They have Tyreek Hill, they have Jalen Waddle, they have a great ground game. They don't need to drop back and be like, who's getting open this play? It's an offense that designs every single play they have for specific players, and the ones getting open are Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. It is not going to be any tight end. They want Jonnu to be involved in a handful of plays a game to set him up for massive gains on screen passes and just getting him the ball in stride, moving across the field. And so while that's going to lead to a low target share, he might be the most efficient tight end, of course, most efficient tight end in the NFL this season. That's going to open the door to him getting lucky on a few big plays, getting lucky scoring in the red zone or scoring from outside the red zone, because he's probably going to have like 13 or 14 yards per reception. That is enough that could catapult him into like a top 7 finish, despite a round 17 ADP always there in the final round. If you're not in on that, you're like, Nick, tight ends don't work in Miami. I'll be like, well, they didn't have any that would work. But if you're in that take, how about Noah Fant? 98th percentile athlete. So, obviously athleticism, not a concern. Hasn't quite broken out yet, but he's had some decent seasons. He's always been like on the verge of breaking out. This season, we're expecting the Seahawks to drop back more than they did under Pete Carroll, but also look at the depth chart. It is Noah Fant, obviously they're number 1, Pharaoh Brown, number 2, AJ Barner, number 3, Brady Russell, number 4. I know Cody Parkinson, Will Dissly, they don't seem like big threats, but those 2 were always kind of like the thorn in Fant's side, and they did get okay contracts to go somewhere else. Like teams actually went after them pretty aggressively, and they were just always there, always racking up receptions, taking away snaps and targets from Noah Fant. Seattle now has the 6th most vacated targets in the league at tight end, and while JSN is going to take some of those, he's not going to take all of them. And with the offense set to increase its pass attempts overall, there is actually a lot to be excited about for Noah Fant. Maybe Fant is just on that like David Njoku, Evan Ingram timeline where, Evan Ingram broke out a teensy bit early on, but then he kind of went away for a while, similar to Noah Fant. Njoku, it took him a very long time to have that breakout season last year. It just takes a while sometimes for tight ends, but when we have these highly athletic first round tight ends, the talent we know is there. It's just, when is the opportunity going to come? It might come this season, and if it does and they use him as their clear tight end 1, he's going to smash his ADP in round 17. Moving deeper, you're like, Nick, it's a sleeper video. I want deep sleepers. How about we go to round 20? Tucker Kraft. Now, for those of you who don't know who Tucker Kraft is, rookie last season for the Packers. He's not as athletic as Jonnu or Fant, and not as athletic even as Musgrave on his own team, but good athleticism, 68th percentile or above in every single athleticism metric, grades out top 20% all time at tight end. So still, a quality athlete. I think everyone just kind of assumes that Luke Musgrave is a clear starter, but I don't think that's a guarantee. Kraft was a lot more efficient on his targets last season and was also more productive in college. I mean, Kraft had like double the production that Musgrave had in college. Matt LaFleur has talked about these two recently as a grouping very glowingly. Like, he thinks both of them are going to be really strong all around tight ends in the NFL. He loves the both of them. They're going to use the both of them a lot, to use them interchangeably at times as well. And again, I think Musgrave is the one you want. Like, I'm going to rank Musgrave higher. I would bet, if I had like a 50-50 bet here, I would bet on Musgrave outproducing Tucker Kraft. But I don't think there should be a 66 pick difference between these two in drafts. And we're looking for upside, right? I don't think either one of these two, honestly, can really hit their ceiling while the other one is healthy. But we saw both of them suffer injuries, right, over this first season and off season. Like, could it happen again? What if Musgrave goes down with an injury? We've got this Packers offense that should be incredibly explosive, should score a ton of touchdowns, and you would have Kraft, like we saw end last year, not being a rookie now, but playing like 90-95% of the snaps, developing as a player. He'd be fantastic in fantasy. So he probably needs that injury to reach his true ceiling. No, he definitely needs that injury to reach his true ceiling. I think he'll still outperform his ADP even up to that point, because I think he's going to have a much larger role than people are anticipating right now. I think it's going to be very close between him and Musgrave. But yeah, 100 percentile ceiling, he's probably still going to need an injury, but what are you expecting when we're in round 20 for tight end? Only other one I could find that I actually don't think needs an injury to truly break out, going in around 20 or 21, is Jelani Woods. So we got Woods, right? 11th highest athleticism score of all time for tight ends, thanks to a 6'7" frame. That is wild. This guy is absolutely massive, moves down the field incredibly quickly, but also difficult to bring down at 6'7". Had like a mini breakout in his rookie season 2022, had a few good games, was never really like fully unleashed for the Colts, but he had 12.5 yards per reception. Honestly, given how he plays, he could see a season where it spikes up. He has like a Kyle Pitts-like rookie season. Pitts had, 15.1 yards per reception. I could see a season where Jelani Woods has, 13, 14 yards per reception if he really gets lucky. But yeah, never really broke out in that rookie season. I was excited about him last year. I drafted him on my dynasty team. Unfortunately, misses the entire season with that lingering hamstring injury. He said over the offseason that he's put in a lot of time to just, develop the muscles, including the hamstring, but around the hamstring as well. Just try and get his legs super strong, super ready for this season. And I'm just excited. I'm excited about his potential. I like this Colts offense. I think that people just don't really know what to do with them, right? Because they have so many guys, right? They're probably going to cut one of them, but they've got Woods as what seems to be the clear number one right now. But they still have Kylan Granson. They have Mo Alley-Cox. They have Will Mallory. Drew Ogletree, I believe, is still with the team right now. But again, that's too many. Like, someone's getting cut. Probably Ogletree or Mo Alley-Cox, but I don't really know which one there. But the point is, there's a lot of guys. And so when people do projections, they're going to have to give a few, points in target share to everyone on this team. And no one really knows who's going to be the guy. And so everyone just kind of drops really far in the rankings. But Mo Cox, he's turning 31. He's never really done anything in the NFL. He's always been a player where it's like, if he ever got a role, maybe he could do something, but he's never put together. I don't know that he ever will. Granson has below average athleticism, and he's only 6'1", which makes his 4.7 40 look a lot worse. He's probably not going to be anything. Woods is 6 inches taller and is faster than him. So if you're going to feature someone, let's feature that guy. You've got Will Mallory, who I think is fine, but Woods does project as the better prospect than him. So I just like taking a shot on him late. Again, we're in round 2021. This is like your final pick on Underdog. This is a late round flyer, obviously in a redraft league, probably more in deeper formats. But so far, the reports are solid out of OTAs. They've been super positive. And if he can stay on the field, he can develop some chemistry with Anthony Richardson this summer. I think once training camp happens, he's a player that could absolutely get steam, and people be like, oh, okay, he's the clear one. This dude's a freak. They can really utilize him, getting him moving downfield in a way like Jonnu Smith could be used for Miami. I don't know. A lot of excitement there for getting someone around 20 or 21. So those are 5 tight ends that I'm personally targeting in the later rounds, whether you want to double dip on 2 of them, or maybe you drafted one in the middle rounds and you don't feel great about only having one, so you want to draft one as a backup. Either way, I think all 5 are great options. If you want to see all my favorite sleepers among all positions, or any of the draft strategy studies I did this offseason, which are more in-depth than anyone else in the industry. Nobody went as in-depth as I did in these studies. If you want to check out that research, you can see it all at my website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. I'll be back tomorrow to go over the biggest ADP changes in recent weeks. That, my friends, is the end of this one. Be sure to leave a like if you watched this far. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. But thanks for watching.